In 1962, Keith Fulsher tied his first Thunder Creek bucktail, probably not realizing what an impact that would have on streamer fishing for the next 60 years. Born in Tomahawk, Wisconsin in 1922, Fulsher served in the Navy in World War II. After the war, moved to New York City to go to Brooklyn College, then worked in the banking industry in New York and Connecticut. Now, he was always a fly fisherman and tyer, and 11 years after tying the first Thunder Creek flies, published Tying and Fishing the Thunder Creek series in 1973. Now, lucky for us, the book was republished as an expanded version in 2006. Now, Fulsher passed away in 2017 at 95 years old, but he definitely left his mark in the fly tying world. Now, this is my old beat-up copy of the 2006 version, but it's really a great book. I picked up another copy of it recently. I'll be reviewing that and giving it away pretty soon. But if you are at all interested in learning how to tie any of the flies in this Thunder Creek series, definitely worth checking out this book. And I tell you, this book will make you want to go out to Wisconsin and fish Thunder Creek. From the pictures in here, these patterns can catch some monster fish. So what exactly is a Thunder Creek style fly? Well, basically, they're bucktails, tied fairly sparse, usually with a darker color on top and then a white or a lighter color underneath. A lot of them have a little bit of flash in between, and they're all tied with the reverse head method and some pretty prominent eyes. And they're not terribly difficult to tie, but they can be kind of hard if you're trying to tie a perfect one. As you'll see in the one I'm about to tie, it's far from perfect. But you know what? I think this thing's going to fish just fine. And they're certainly fun to tie. I think y'all are going to like it. Let's give it a shot. So there it is, the Emerald Shiner Thunder Creek fly, streamer of course. And how we tie this is pretty much how you're going to tie all of your Thunder Creek flies. You do have a couple options for the eyes, and we'll talk about those when we get to them. I'm tying this on a size 8. And this is a, well, let's pinch that barb first. Or break it. This is a 6X long. I believe that's a limerick bend. Yeah, it is. And this one, it's called a weighted fly. So I'm going to put just about 10 wraps of 0.15 weight right up front. So it's not a whole lot. So that's just going to give us a little bit of weight, but also kind of help us bulk out our head. So I'm using some white thread. This is a 6/0. If I had a 3/0, I'd probably be using that to help build it up quicker. But I'm gonna put a dam behind it and in front of it, ramp it up, and then just use this to try to build a little bit of a cigar shape here. Now the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna flip it upside down. Let's lower that so you can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to catch in the white underside. And this is a pretty significant clump of white bucktail. And if you have good quality enough bucktail that you can stack it, yeah, go ahead and do that. If not, just try to do it by hand. And so what I'm doing, I really just pulled out the super long ones by hand. And when we catch it in, envision folding it back over to make sure it's going to give you the right length. So I'm going to catch it in right up here, right in front of that weight with a pinch wrap and just a couple of them, but I'm going to, before I go too far ahead, I'm going to fold that back over and make sure that's the right length. And in this case, it is. So I'll go ahead and secure this. A couple of medium and tight wraps going forward. But my goal here is just to keep this right on top, or actually this is the underside of the hook, but keep it right on this side and get these wraps all the way up there behind the eye without it, spinning around too much on me. Now I will bunch all these back up and carry this over this weight, and then I'm going to tie it off right on the back side of the weight right here. And I'm going to try and cut this at a little bit of a taper. Probably not a big deal if you don't make that happen, but it might make it just a little bit easier to smooth this down right there. Okay, now we can turn the hook back over. Let's get that situated again. Okay, that's fine right there. And I really want these coming straight off the bottom there. You might want to lick your fingers and just pull these together. It might help them stay together while you're tying in the next piece, which is going to be the green top side. Now let's take our thread back up to the front again. And this one, I want it to be, the green to be just a little bit longer than my white. So I think that's it right there. And I'm going to catch this in with a pinch wrap and try to keep this right on top. And I don't want them to be mixing up. It will just make the next step a little bit harder if they do get mixed up on you. So let's keep this together. And now a few loose wraps right here until we get back here, snip this excess off. Okay, a few extra wraps right here just to try to smooth this little taper out right here. Now let's go ahead and catch in 4 strands of thin Krystal flash. And I'm going to use a peacock color here. I think it will just go well with this fly. But if you don't have this, I'm sure silver, whatever you have is going to be just fine. So we'll take a few wraps back, keep it on top of the hook there. Now either bury or snip this excess right here. I'm going to go ahead and trim these to size just a little bit past, about where I think the back of that tail is going to be. Now I'm going to take my thread right back up here to the front. Now we got to split these up, and you could use tape. We could have taped that white bunch together before we tied the green in. I did that before, but it was a little bit overkill. I didn't necessarily need to do that. But you can see I got one white hair up in there. Let's see if we can get that out of there. And actually I really need to leave my thread here in the back where we're going to finish our head. Okay, so somewhere toward the back of our lump right there, that's where we're going to, catch in our head. So this can be a little bit tricky. You kind of want to pull this tight. And it's like a bullet head here. And we'll do a couple of loose wraps. Just make sure that, we're right on top where we want to be. And now we can put some tighter wraps. Don't be afraid to put several. And take a look at it both sides. Do we think we're going to get a pretty straight line? Yeah, I think we are. Okay, so an extra wrap right there. I'm going to flip this over and then do the same thing right here. Just kind of pinch it. And then I'm going to need to do a pinch wrap right there. Let's do 2. And then take a look at it. Okay. I do have a little gap between that green and the white, so let's work on that. See if we can smooth that out just a little bit. Okay, that's a little bit better right there. And don't worry if there's a little bit of gap, because that will be hidden with this big lump of UV resin that we're going to be, putting on this head. So I'm going to put a few wraps right here, get a little band. And I might need to go a little bit higher because I've got some wraps right there. Okay, that will work right there. That band's a little bit wider than I would have preferred, but it's going to work. It'll be just fine. So let's go ahead and do a whip finish right there where our thread is. Now, if you have a big whip finish tool, that would have worked right there, but I didn't, so I had to do it by hand. Okay, now do we have any cleanup? I've got one little green one right there going forward. I want to go ahead and snip that off. Okay, now here's how we have some options to finish it. If you want to use stick-on eyes, something like these right here, they are sticky on the back, but you're still going to need some super glue. So what I had in the vise at the beginning, I just put a drop of super glue and then touch those eyes on it. If you're going to use those type of eyes, you'll do it before you do the UV resin. But if you don't want to use those eyes, you'll do the UV resin right now, and then you can just paint the eyes on after that dries. So that's what I'll do right here. I'll just show you how I do the resin. And this is a thin, and it's going to take a fair amount. If you have thick's going to work just fine, but you'll need to put, you know, big dollops all the way around, and you'll have to be kind of quick with it because it'll start to drip and cause you some lumps on the underside. See that? It's kind of dripping right there. So you might end up just putting a little bit on and then harden it, putting a little more on and then harden it until you get the nice bullet head shape that you want. And if it gets a little lumpy on you, maybe take your bodkin and try to smooth it out, or, you know, take some of that glue away. But when you get the shape that you like, you can go ahead and spin it around a little bit, put your torch on it. I'm trying to spin it so it doesn't sit in any one position and then drip down on me. But 10 or 15 seconds with this, and it's actually so much resin, it's probably going to take you 20 or 30 seconds to get it good and hard. But now when you let it get good and hard, maybe dry, maybe put another coat if you want it, just touch a toothpick or something with some white model paint on it, and then get a big circle, then a little drop for the black pupil. And it's really that simple. It's not that hard of a tie. It's a pretty cool looking pattern. You know these things are going to be effective. So that's it, my friends. I appreciate y'all watching. Take care, and we'll see you next time.